Welcome to Miss Scarlett, the place to be feminine. Subscribe and enjoy. Robert frantically searched through his closet, tossing shirts and slacks onto the growing pile on his bedroom floor. The annual company gala was only an hour away, and disaster had struck. A delivery mix-up meant his dry-clean tuxedo was now sporting another man's name on the tag and was nowhere to be found. Robert had no other suitable options hanging in his wardrobe. Think, he muttered to himself, pacing around the bedroom. He couldn't skip the gala entirely. As a junior associate aiming to make a good impression, his attendance was practically mandatory. But with no tux and time rapidly dwindling, Robert was out of ideas. A knock on his open door made him spin around. His younger sister Becca poked her head in, her brow furrowed with concern. "Everything okay in here?" Sounded like a stampede was tromping around. Robert sighed and sank down onto his bed. "My tux is gone and I have this huge work event tonight. I'm totally screwed." He glanced at his watch and groaned. "And I have to leave in like 45 minutes. Becca stepped into the room, surveying the clothing carnage with a thoughtful expression. "Well, I might have an idea. It's a little unconventional, but—" She trailed off hesitantly. "I'm all ears for any suggestions at this point," Robert said. "What have you got?" "You could borrow something of mine to wear," Becca said slowly. She must have seen the dubious look flash across Robert's face because she held up a hand. "Now hear me out. I have some jumpsuits and trousers that are pretty androgynous. It wouldn't be super obvious they're women's clothes. I bet we could find something that would work with the right accessories and styling." Robert stared at her, stunned into momentary silence by the preposterous proposal. Him? In women's clothing? But as he glanced at his watch again, he realized his options were non-existent. It was Becca's idea, or calling out of the gala entirely. "Okay, let's see what you've got," he said reluctantly, standing up. "But I swear, if I end up looking like a drag queen in front of my bosses, I'm never going to forgive you." Becca grinned. "Just trust me, okay? I promise I'll have you looking sharp." She dragged Robert by the hand to her bedroom down the hall. Opening her closet, she began flipping through hangers. Maybe the black satin jumpsuit. Or what about these gray trousers with the matching vest?" Robert watched uncertainly as more and more options were pulled out and laid on Becca's bed. He had to admit, her style tended more towards minimalist chic than frilly and girly. Maybe this crazy idea could actually work. "Here, try these on," Becca said, thrusting a few hangers into Robert's arms and steering him towards her ensuite bathroom. "See what fits and feels comfortable." Robert stepped inside and locked the door. He stared at himself in the mirror for a long moment, the women's clothes dangling from his fingertips. Could he really go through with this? Showing up to the gala, in front of all his co-workers and superiors, wearing his sister's clothing? He took a deep breath. It was this, or bailing entirely on the biggest event of the year for his career. He had to at least try to make it work. With slightly trembling hands, Robert undressed, and then picked up the first item Becca had handed him. It was a sleek black satin jumpsuit with a subtle floral pattern. He unzipped it and gingerly stepped inside, pulling it up his legs and over his torso. The fabric was buttery soft against his skin and draped elegantly over his lean frame as he zipped it closed. Robert turned to look at himself in the full-length mirror. To his shock, he didn't look ridiculous at all. The jumpsuit fit him perfectly, emphasizing his long legs and trim waist in a flattering way. If he didn't know better, he never would have guessed it was a woman's garment. A soft knock rapped on the door. "How's it going in there?" Becca called out. Robert unlocked and opened the door. Becca's eyes widened as she took in the sight of her brother in the jumpsuit. A huge smile spread across her face. "Holy shit, Robbie! You look amazing!" she exclaimed. She grabbed his hand and tugged him out into her bedroom, spinning him around. "That jumpsuit was made for you. Seriously, I'm so jealous of how good you look right now." Robert glanced at his reflection in Becca's bedroom mirror. The snug fit and shimmery black fabric made him look long and lean. He had to admit, he felt surprisingly self-assured and at ease in the outfit, not awkward or uncomfortable like he'd feared. "You don't think it's too girly?" he asked hesitantly. Becca shook her head vehemently. "Not at all. It's chic and cool, just like a tux would be. But we'll macho it up a bit with the right accessories to ease your mind." She dug into a drawer and pulled out a few items: a black leather belt, a silver watch, some onyx cufflinks. Robert added each piece, watching his reflection transform into a suave, put-together look. "There," Becca said with satisfaction. "No one will ever guess that outfit came from my closet. You're going to be the best-dressed guy at that gala, hands down." Robert adjusted his cufflinks, surprised by how much he liked the final look. The jumpsuit made him feel sleek and dashing. He felt a swell of gratitude towards his sister for suggesting such an ingenious solution. "Becca, I can't thank you enough," he said sincerely. "You totally saved my ass tonight. I owe you big time." "That's what little sisters are for," she said with a wink. "Now go wow those stuffed shirts with your fabulous fashion sense, and save me a dance at the end of the night." Robert laughed and gave her a quick hug before gathering his things to leave. As he walked to his car, there was a spring in his step and a new confidence in his bearing. He knew he looked great, and for once, he wasn't dreading schmoozing at a work function. When he arrived at the glitzy hotel ballroom where the gala was being held, Robert took a deep, fortifying breath before entering. Stepping inside, he waited for the stares and snickers at his unusual attire, but they never came. As he made his way through the crowd, Robert was met with nothing but admiring glances and compliments on his outfit. His direct supervisor, a serious woman named Linda, actually did a double take when she saw him. "Robert, is that you?" she asked, looking him up and down. "I almost didn't recognize you. You look fantastic. What an elegant, unique look." Robert smiled, feeling a flush of pride. "Thank you, Linda. Just trying to shake things up a bit, you know?" As the night wore on, Robert found himself receiving praise left and right on his fashion choice. The jumpsuit seemed to give him an air of flair and panache that had his colleagues seeing him in a whole new light. Even the CEO made a point to come over and introduce himself. "Robert, is it?" he said, shaking his hand firmly. "I've been hearing your name quite a bit tonight. You've made quite the impression." Robert shook his head in wonder. Wearing women's clothing had just drastically elevated his status at work, rather than making a laughingstock as he'd feared. He knew he had Becca and her brilliant idea to thank. As the gala finally wound down, Robert stepped out into the cool night air, a beaming smile on his face. The evening had been an unmitigated success, and it was all because he'd had the courage to slip into an unexpected outfit. Robert knew things would be different now. His colleagues would see him as a stylish rising star, not just a meek junior associate. And he would carry himself with more confidence, secure in the knowledge that he could pull off any look with aplomb. But it wasn't just his reputation that had shifted. Something inside Robert had fundamentally changed, too. He realized that he felt freer and happier in that silky jumpsuit than he ever had in a stiff, formal tux. There had been something thrilling about embracing his feminine side, about bending the gender norms he'd always conformed to without question. Robert knew it was unconventional for a man to feel so comfortable, so himself, in women's clothing. But he couldn't deny how right it felt, how much more genuine and vibrant he felt, shedding the armor of masculinity he'd worn all his life. He considered how small his everyday wardrobe seemed in comparison to the wide world of women's fashion. The colors, fabrics, and styles were infinitely more varied and exciting. Why had he limited himself for so long to bland suits and baggy jeans? It seemed foolish now. When Robert got home that night, he found Becca curled up on the couch. She leapt up when he walked through the door, searching his face expectantly. "Well, how did it go? I've been dying to hear." Robert grinned and swept her up in a massive hug. "Becca, you're a genius! It went better than I ever could have imagined. I was the belle of the ball in this getup." Becca squealed and hugged him back tightly. "Yay! I knew it would look amazing on you. So, what's the verdict? Did wearing a woman's jumpsuit turn you into a total fashion maven?" Robert chuckled, but then grew thoughtful. He looked at Becca seriously. "It did more than that. It cracked something open in me, some part of myself I didn't know existed. I felt so much more like the real me in your clothes. Freer, happier, more confident. Is that crazy?" Becca's expression softened. She took Robert's hands in hers. "Not crazy at all. Clothes don't have a gender, they're just a way to express ourselves. And if wearing feminine things makes you feel more yourself, then that's a beautiful discovery. You should keep exploring that, Robbie." Robert felt a lump form in his throat, moved by his sister's easy acceptance and encouragement. "I think I will. No, I know I will. Tonight showed me a whole new side to myself. One I really like, one that's been hidden away for way too long." "Well, you know what that means," Becca said with a mischievous grin. "Tomorrow we're going shopping and getting you your own wardrobe. It'll be way more fun than boring suits and ties." Robert laughed, already excited by the prospect. He knew it would take time for him to fully embrace and integrate this new part of himself. There would likely be confusion and pushback from some people in his life, but he also knew, with bone-deep certainty, that he could never go back to denying this truth now that he'd experienced it. Becca's jumpsuit had been an unexpected key to unlocking his authentic self. He would be forever grateful that a laundry mix-up had sent him down this path of discovery. Robert knew it was just the beginning of a major journey of transformation, but he had a feeling it would be the most meaningful one of his life, engaging in a love he didn't know he'd been suppressing all this time. The love for his full self, feminine energy and all. He turned to Becca, his eyes shining with emotion. "Thank you," he said simply, infusing the words with all the love and gratitude he felt. She smiled softly back at him. "That's what I'm here for, warrior princess. To support my big brother as he goes after what makes him happy. No matter what you wear, you'll always be my hero." With that, the siblings embraced, both feeling the magnitude of the shift that had occurred tonight. A whole new world had opened up, and Robert couldn't wait to step out into it, fabulously dressed and radiantly, fully himself.